What if I told you that North Korea, a country barely able to keep the lights on, has built luxury sedans, knockoff SUVs, and even attempted to reverse engineer a Mercedes? And what if I told you that some of the most hated cars in the world are actually secretly brilliant? Today, we're diving into two bizarre worlds: North Korean cars that actually exist, and popular cars that got unfairly destroyed by the internet. Strap in, because this ride is strange, surprising, and probably weirder than anything you've ever seen on four wheels. Back in the 1960s and 70s, North Korea dreamed of creating their own luxury sedan. Their solution was simple. Take a Soviet GZ-21 Volga, repaint it, tweak a few panels, and call it a revolutionary creation. This became the Pectosan, a car meant to symbolize national pride. Instead, it became the perfect example of how reverse engineering doesn't always work. Boxy, chrome-heavy, unmistakably Soviet, and built in tiny numbers, the Pectosan eventually disappeared into history like so many North Korean projects that never truly existed. Fast forward to the 2010s. North Korea grabbed a Chinese FAW Bestern B50, slapped on a new badge, and called it the Hiparam 1610, their technological breakthrough. To the outside world, it was a joke. To North Korean officials, it was a masterpiece worthy of propaganda posters. Simple features like power windows and air conditioning were treated like space-age miracles. It wasn't really a car. It was a performance, a staged illusion of progress. Then there was the Samchunri 0102, a van built from a Chinese Jinbei Haze, which itself was a copy of a Toyota Hiace. Yes, it was literally a copy of a copy of a copy. These vans became minibuses, ambulances, and service vehicles. Mechanically, they were disasters. Doors that might close, windows that might roll down, engines loud enough to warn everyone you were coming. But in a country where most people never own a car, even a bad van becomes proof of progress. Next came the Pokugi 1509. The name literally means cuckoo, which couldn't be more fitting. Based on a Chinese FAW Senya S80, North Korean propaganda pushed it as the perfect modern family SUV. In reality, it felt like a plastic toy pretending to be a truck. Vinyl seats that froze in winter, melted in summer, a radio that worked only if the antenna was pointed just right, and an engine that offered the strength of an enthusiastic hamster. Still, to North Korea, this was luxury. And speaking of luxury, the Pokugi 2405 Primo tried to look premium. It was based on the Chinese Hefei landscape, a car not exactly celebrated in China. North Korea layered it with fake wood trim, plasticky chrome, and leather seats that were very obviously vinyl. But to party officials, it looked high status. That was enough. For once, North Korea did build a car that actually worked. The Pokugi 2008, based on the Beijing Jeep BJ 2024, was boxy, ugly, and brutally simple but functional. Could handle rough roads, harsh winters, and constant neglect. It wasn't glamorous, but it got the job done. And in North Korea, that alone makes it a miracle. If you've ever visited Pyongyang or seen tourist footage, the taxis you see are the Whipper M3. Based on the Chinese Brilliance FSV, these taxis were one of the few cars in North Korea with working AC and somewhat comfortable seats. Ironically, most North Koreans could never afford to ride in one. The cars existed mainly to impress foreign visitors. In the early 2000s, something rare happened. Fiat partnered with North Korea to assemble the Fiat Siena, creating the Whipper M1. This was one of the only moments North Korea had access to real Western engineering. It became a status symbol, not because it was luxurious, but because it actually worked properly. The partnership ended quickly when Fiat realized North Korea couldn't pay for the parts. Then there's the legendary Kangsang 88, North Korea's attempt to reverse engineer a Mercedes 190E. They took it apart and tried to rebuild it with local materials. The result looked like a Mercedes drawn from memory. Panel gaps wide enough to lose your phone in. An engine that made about half the original power. And parts that no one could replace. Today, these cars have vanished into myth. Finally, the crown jewel, the Pyeonghwa Junma. A legitimate luxury sedan based on the Sangyong Chairman, which itself used an old Mercedes E-Class platform. Built through a joint venture with a South Korean company connected to the Unification Church, the Junma was shockingly good. Real leather, real wood trim, smooth ride, proper luxury. Only the elite were allowed to own it. And it proved one thing: North Korea could build a quality car, but only with foreign help. Now let's shift gears. Some cars aren't from North Korea, but they get just as much hate. These are the misunderstood, meme-ified machines that actually deserve more love. The Chrysler PT Cruiser looked goofy, but it was incredibly practical and sold over 1.3 million units. The Porsche 914 was mocked for having a VW engine, but its handling was phenomenal. The Fiat Multipla may be one of the ugliest cars ever made, but its interior layout was genius. The Cadillac Cimarron started terribly, but later models were sporty and even came with a manual transmission. The Mitsubishi Eclipse Cross was hated for its name, not its quality. The Pontiac Aztek was ugly, yes, but incredibly functional and way ahead of its time. The Smart Fortwo was mocked in America, but perfect for major cities. The Chevrolet SSR looked ridiculous until you drove the V8 version. The Subaru Tribeca had one ugly year, then became one of Subaru's best family vehicles. The Lincoln Blackwood was a luxury pickup released too early for its own good. Today it would fit right in. The Porsche Cayenne angered purists but ended up saving the company financially. The Honda Ridgeline isn't a traditional truck, but it's perfect for how most Americans actually use trucks. The Hyundai Veloster's three-door layout was clever and underrated. The Mazda RX-8 was high maintenance, but an incredible car to drive. The Tesla Model 3 gets endless hate for hype and culture wars, not for performance. The Jeep Compass isn't a real Jeep to purists, but it's a solid crossover. The Nissan Juke is weird, but the Nismo version is a legitimate hot hatch. The BMW X6 created a whole new SUV segment despite the hate. The DeLorean DMC-12 wasn't as bad as people say, it just needed more time. And the Volkswagen Phaeton was an engineering masterpiece too good for the badge it wore. So what did we learn today? North Korea's cars are the perfect mix of ambition, illusion, and borrowed technology. And many of the world's most hated cars were simply misunderstood, ahead of their time, or victims of bad expectations. Cars aren't just machines, they're stories. And sometimes the story the world tells is wrong. If you enjoyed this journey through strange cars, forgotten cars, and misunderstood cars, hit like, drop a comment telling us which one surprised you the most, and subscribe for more deep dives into automotive madness.